We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Good morning. Oh, sorry, Brian. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the NFL preview show, Week 17. I am Hamilton Michaeletta, along with Brian the Ranger Retard, Tony Quigley, and Yotone Anthony Emilio. How are you, guys? What's going on?
Good morning.
What's up, Mikey Mike?
Guys, we made it. It's Week 17. It's the last week of the season. This NFL season has gone. I don't want to say smooth, but we've gotten to the end of the finish line, and it seems like COVID's gone rampant a little bit in the NFL, but we made it. So we will finish up this week. We'll talk about this week some different topics, go into the playoffs. But first, Brian, we'll hit you with a little bit of crowd play.
I think it went pretty smooth, all things considered. Nobody lost any games. Every team played their full 16. That was, I think, up in the air at some point.
A lot of reschedules.
That's right. Big shout out to our friends over at CrowdPlay. Check out the free app. Use our code THEBOX at sign up. Get 10 free points. You can win cash and prizes, predicting the outcome of virtual and real sporting events as the NFL playoffs get kicking off next weekend. You're going to want to get on there and get the 10 free points. You get a big leg up on the competition for sure.
Absolutely. A lot of stuff to talk about. Games do mean stuff today to certain teams. Others are just playing out the season as normal. I think it's going to be a crazy, crazy betting day. But, whatever. It is what it is. So, Brian, take us around. Let's see where we're going to go.
Well, there definitely is a lot to talk about, even before you get into the games of the day. I mean, news has been breaking all morning about some expectations coming in the next season, as you can probably expect, as this is the final day for half the league, over half the league. Big news in the quarterback arena, really all around the NFL. And we'll go, through this bit by bit. Drew Brees expected to retire. Carson Wentz looking potentially for a trade. Cam's probably out in New England. Stafford, we don't know, in Detroit. Let's start with Drew Brees. The question came in, why is Drew Brees retiring? Is it COVID reasons? Now, Henry, I don't think it's COVID, but I think this is something that was put in motion when he signed that lucrative broadcasting deal, that he kind of has his post-football future set up for himself. I don't think it's any surprise. What I want to ask the panel here is, where does this leave the Saints for next year? Regardless of what you think happens this year. I mean, this year they may win, they may not. They've been a perennial playoff disappointment. But when Brees went down with injury, it wasn't Jameis Winston that got the call. And people thought Jameis Winston might get the call in the future when Brees retired. It was a converted tight end in Taysom Hill. I don't know what to make of this team moving forward. Sean Payton's still going to be there. I'll start with you, Quig. What are your thoughts on the Saints post-Brees?
I mean, I think we already saw a good glimpse of what the Saints would be post Brees already. Taysom Hill, gave himself a great audition. I forget what his exact record was, but I think that they only lost one game, and that was to the Eagles in that shocker. So when you're looking at it from that point, Spence, you already have a solid system in place that could support Taysom Hill and winning football games. The other thing though is with Jameis Winston in the picture. I mean, he is a real threat to actually take that job with a full season of off season to evaluate him, training camp and everything like that. So when you're looking at the situation in totality, it's not too bad. I mean, although you're losing Drew Brees, who hasn't been lights out this year by any means. So, you're looking at a team that's, I'm not going to say set at the quarterback position, because if they did have a chance to land a stud, I'm sure that they would jump on it. But, with Sean Payton and his creativity in the offense is able to lend a number of options out there. And you saw what they did. Just don't tell Kamara fantasy owners, because if Taysom Hill was the quarterback, he killed his value.
Mike.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the Drew Brees thing, that happened before the season even started with the whole, like Brian said, that lucrative deal. You knew he was going to be out. I mean, I think Drew Brees can play another year or two, but I mean, it's his choice. He's going out in his time. But the whole Taysom Hill thing is interesting. I mean, he probably didn't. He looked good in ways. I think when he came in, you obviously expected him to be like Drew Brees, and that's not the case. But I mean, I think once he gets acclimated to the offense, I think they'll be fine. Peyton's a good coach. They still have the weapons there. Michael Thomas, Kamara. I think they'll be fine. The Saints. It's just going to be a whole different kind of offense, I think, without Drew Brees there. The high throwing or high powered throwing offense they have. It's just going to take a while to get Taysom Hill acclimated.
Yeah, I agree with what these guys say. I mean, this is well known. He was going to go to the booth to announce football games. I actually think they're fine, and I actually think Taysom Hill is not the future there. I think there will be another quarterback there to run Sean Payton's system, because I think they haven't been going downfield. They need a quarterback to throw it downfield to have this offense be successful. So I feel there will be a new quarterback in New Orleans, maybe neither Jameis or Hill.
But what's Jameis Winston's contract situation?
He's one year deal, I think. I think it was a 1 year deal.
For 2 was it
1
year?
I thought it was one. I thought it was one. It could be with an option for a second year, maybe. But
let's go find out.
Well, Sean Payton's such a good football coach. I think he makes a big difference.
Yeah, but Tony, I want to get back to Tony for a second. I know you said that Jameis could be the future there and all. I think it's kind of weird that if that is the case or was the case, they would have put him in, I think, in a starting opportunity to see what he can do. I mean, he came in the second half of a game where he really didn't do much. I mean, did you think that was enough to say, okay, well, he's not our guy, let's go to Taysom Hill?
Well, no, I think at the time it was a mop-up duty, because when you try to implement Taysom Hill, you're changing your entire offense. I mean, so I think I think that the quarterback situation, if Brees leaves, isn't such dire as people would expect because of what you saw, because they can use the offensive creativity. And I'm not a big believer in Jameis Winston, never have been, even since he was the number one overall pick.
It was a 1 year deal.
So, I mean, they have a time to evaluation. And here's the thing, too. Like, when you're talking about evaluation, you're not even just talking about just on the field. You have to talk about how he works in the clubhouse and the locker room, and Sean Payton likes him, and the quarterback coaches, and see how that he works in that environment. If they don't like it, I mean, what they did with Taysom Hill this season isn't a horrible plan if they cannot land. Because, I mean, it's easy, like, oh, there'll be a new quarterback. It's easier said than done, though, because, they might not want to invest that money. I mean, so it's – I'm not sure what their cap situation is, but I mean, who's going to be out there for him? Stafford might be out there. Matt Ryan. I mean, is Matt Ryan jump ship?
And here's the problem there. So we've talked about the Eagles situation with the cap at length on this show. The Saints are actually worse off. The Saints right now are $95 million over the $176 million cap for next year.
I bet you a lot of that is Thomas and Kamara.
That's a lot. It is a lot. They have a reckoning coming for that team. But part of that's, though, it is Brees. I mean, if Brees retires, we'll see what happens with that number. I mean, Brees is a $36 million cap number next year. But you're right, Mike. Thomas is at 23 right there. Kamara's at 14. I mean, those are big. Andreas Pete's at 19. Cesar Ruiz is at 10. it's in dead money.
Making $10 million a year. You got to love it.
And you got secondary too. I mean, you got Jenkins making probably.
Those would be dead money if they go. Thomas
Lattimore probably. Yeah.
Kamara is making. Wow, Kamara's has a cap number of 5 next year. That's interesting. Yeah. They got some financial issues to say the absolute very least, and they got to figure that out. And that's why I think possibly they may go for a cheap in-house option at quarterback. I don't think Taysom Hill's the answer, though. I mean, I don't think this guy's a starting quarterback for anything more than a condensed period of filling in. I just don't see how you could. I mean, you saw when they put him in this year, they didn't really run an offense.
They have to throw the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball at some point, and they got to get it down the field. If you watch their offense, they're not getting it down the field at all. It's not what you're used to seeing from the Saints.
Well, but here's the thing though. You are used to seeing that from the Saints this year and last year because Drew Brees can't throw the ball downfield.
Yeah. But don't you think? I think Sean Payton wants to throw the ball down the field, and he can't do that right now. He has no one that can do that.
Well, that's the problem. So I mean, without realistically knowing its options, his options out there and what's available. It's a very difficult discussion. I mean, they're going to be drafted.
It's possible Winston can't grasp the offense. That's why they're not putting him in. You don't know what's going on. I think it's kind of strange they're not give him playing time, but maybe there's something in house.
When they made the move, when Brees sat out, I said that it was because of what Sean Payton is more comfortable with, and he was more comfortable and he trusted that offensive style with Taysom Hill than he is just throwing it to Jameis Winston. Because you have to remember, Winston came in. He didn't have a preseason, any preseason games. Very limited work. So, I mean, and what you can run with all those weapons out. That they have. Well, they had with Michael Thomas and Kamara when it goes in the season.
So we'll see where that turns up in New Orleans. Here's a question for you guys before we move on. How much, and this is just to be fair, how much of Drew Brees' statistical success do you attribute to Sean Payton and how that offense has been run the entire time he's been there? If you look back to his numbers in San Diego, they weren't insane numbers, but really when he teamed up with a guy like Sean Payton in New Orleans, where it was air it out all the time, the defense was very bad, which creates that need for offense on the other side. Just your thoughts there. I mean, I'm not trying to denigrate Drew Brees. Don't take it that way, but I do think it's fair to say, had he ended up somewhere else with a different head coach in a different situation, that his numbers would not be anywhere close to what they are.
Okay. I'll say two things. I'll say one, he had LaDainian Tomlinson when he was out in San Diego, which they had a good running attack out there. Number two is it wasn't that much of a throwing league as it is now. I mean, now it's just everybody's throwing the ball a ton, and he's throwing, 4,000, 5,000 yards a year. I mean, yeah, you can attribute some of his success, I think, to Peyton. I just think he was a good quarterback in an unutilized system in San Diego.
Huh? I actually believe in Sean Payton. I think he's an excellent football coach. His offenses have never really failed. They're constantly putting up numbers, putting guys in the system. So I think Sean Payton had a lot to do with Drew Brees and fitting his game. And in the beginning, like I said, they were throwing the ball down the field. Marcus Colston, Devery Henderson. I mean, they were airing it out back in the day, and right now it's just a different offense.
Yeah, when you're looking at the career of Drew Brees, Galetta touched on it a little bit. I mean, he's been around long enough where he's actually seen the change in the rules apply and help quarterbacks, and he's always been an accurate quarterback. The Miami medical team who passed on him for Dante Culpepper's, they're probably selling sneakers somewhere in Costa Rica or something like that. But you know what? It's a good match of talent and offensive creativity. And I'm not going to say one carried another, but it is a nice matchup. And Brees made the best things happen with it.
Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz, who was benched a couple of weeks ago in favor of rookie Jalen Hurts, is expected to ask for a trade in the offseason. Breaking news just now is he will be inactive today. He's a healthy scratch. He won't even be the backup. He'll be the third quarterback.
Wow.
What you hear is that the Eagles seem to think the situation is salvageable. I don't really know about that. What you've heard recently about the team is that Doug Peterson is going to be back next year. At least that's the rumor. You've heard that Jim Schwartz, the much maligned defensive coordinator, is planning to retire or take a year off, which is pretty much better than losing your job, I guess, because your defense stinks. And plus, they have their own cap issues. So your thoughts here on Wentz. Number one, the Eagles seem to think it's salvageable. Your opinion on that for number one is, can this actually be fixed after what we've seen with Jalen Hurts coming in and playing the way that he has into next season? But B, if he does ask for a trade, I know we've talked about some of the likely landing spots, but just some thoughts as to where really a deal could be made.
Well, when you look at the Carson Wentz situation, it went from bad to worse, and now it's kind of imploded in their face. The Eagles are very lucky. I mean, Jalen Hurts has had mixed reviews playing. He is exciting to watch, and you can see the team playing harder around him. But he's still a rookie quarterback, and I'm not even sure if he is, the future of Philadelphia. But if you're looking at it from an Eagle standpoint, what they have invested in Wentz, what they have invested in Hurts, because you had that second round pick now, they're in a pretty bad spot because Wentz and his tanking. I mean, well, I'm not going to call it tanking because that would be done intentionally, but him just being horrible this season, for lack of a better word, just destroyed his value. How he handled it is to kind of destroyed his value a little bit. So this is not a good spot for Jalen Hurts to be in as far as like a young rookie, because Wentz hasn't really worked with him at all. I mean, there's literally no leadership there. But when if worst case scenario though, if Jalen Hurts is actually the quarterback next year and Wentz is still on the roster, you look at the overall money tied up in the position next year, it isn't horrible if you just flip-flop, pretend in your head that the salaries are flip-flopped. If you flip, you have your starter and you have your backup. What'll get real bad is when you'd have to extend Jalen Hurts and sign him to the new contract. Then you double fist yourself. And they have to find out a solution real fast when that happens. But going into next year, we'll see. I mean, Indy, like Ryan Leach points out, Indy is everybody's easy fit for Carson Wentz. But what would Indy be willing to give up for him? I mean, because the Eagles are going to want a pretty penny, and I don't know if what teams would be willing to pay.
Well, that's the thing, though. Would they? Because at some point, if the situation is bad enough and they just want to move on, wouldn't it just be? Isn't there a value to just cutting ties and moving on? Like, it's not a situation where you're going to have to pay to take someone to take him. I'm not saying that, but right. I mean, if you just look and say, listen, we have a quarterback now. We can't, there's no way you can bring this guy back. If our intention is to go with Jalen Hurts, he has to go. Take him, put him out on the side of the road, free, the whole bot. Like if anybody wants him here, take a conditional seventh, take him. It doesn't even matter anymore. I don't think it's necessarily for them. Excuse me. That's the direction that they go. So much the return in that they just need to get out of the situation. Again, assuming that's the case. I'm like you, Tone. I don't necessarily believe Jalen Hurts is, from what I've seen, again, rookie. I'm not taking, he's played well from the dual threat standpoint. I haven't really been overly impressed with how he's thrown the ball down the field. Again, I don't want to take shots at the kid 5 years into his career, but he has to figure that out. We've talked about Lamar Jackson, who still at times does not look very good throwing the ball down the field. Gotten better, clearly, not where he probably needs to be. I guess I'll say the same thing about him as I say about Lamar, is that like your first inclination can't be to run. That doesn't work. You can use it, but it shouldn't be your first read, so to speak. Mike.
Well, you want to say one thing, but the Eagles created this whole situation. I mean, Carson's doing what he has to do for his career. He wants out because he knows his ship sailed in Philly, which is sad because you pay this guy to be your franchise quarterback in a big, big deal. And then you draft a guy in the second round or with your pick, a high pick in the next year. and then you put him in a quarterback. I'm not saying that listen, the Eagles created this situation, this monster, and like you guys said, Jalen Hurts might not is going to be the guy probably moving forward, but is he the guy that's going to fill in the Carson Wentz's shoes? I don't think so. And now you've got a ton of money invested in Carson Wentz. And that money you got to get rid of. So I think the best spot for him is Indy, to be honest with you. I think he's going to end up in Indy. Frank Reich there, I think he likes him. Going to need a quarterback next year. I think it's a good landing spot for him. I also heard Anthony the Bears as a spot next year for him. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe somebody just threw that out there. But
now New Orleans is an option now too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. But if you want to say who created this monster, it definitely 100% was the Eagles, how they botched this whole thing, I think.
Yeah, this is an absolute mess. I mean, I think the only way to go is just to move on. I'm shocked he's inactive today. That's really shocking. That's just a telltale that he definitely wants out. I think so. You just move on. I mean, what do you think? What do you guys think? You think they could get that second round pick back for him?
Nope.
No.
I think you can probably maybe get a third, but you'll get a fourth.
Depending on the team situation and what it is, I think second is actually viable. I mean, if somebody has belief in them. You guys are saying that the Eagles created this mess. Listen, the Eagles might have salvaged this mess, to be honest with you, by taking Jalen Hurts if he's actually a quarterback. I mean, we all bashed the pick when it initially happened, but maybe the Eagles kind of seen this coming because, I mean, if you look at Doug's record without Carson Wentz, he's 11-5, so he's well above 500, so without Wentz. So maybe they seen some telltale signs that were coming in the future where, they had to draft their quarterback because they didn't have confidence in Wentz, which is pretty bad after paying him all the money.
But that's the thing, though, and that's where I go back where it just doesn't make sense from a chronological standpoint, right? Because to me, I look back at last season and I say, was there anything that happened last season which would have changed my view of his trajectory? Because prior to last season, when he gave him the deal, he had a pretty good year last year playing with literally nobody around him. And the team did make the play.
He was okay. I mean, he was okay last year. He wasn't the greatest last year at all. Completion percentage was down. There's a lot of and we're not in the locker room. We're not working with Doug and saying because I seen Carson Wentz degress last year. He completely hit rock bottom this year. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So maybe the degression last year, maybe since everybody bashing them needs to start giving them credit for seeing this, how bad he was playing, and I don't think Peterson helped him out a lot because he's saying a lot as far as, Wentz throws pretty good on the move, and everything like that. And we have to roll out Carson more. Well, then guess what? They don't fucking call any rollouts until the third quarter. And he rolled out one time, so I mean, was the play called sabotaging the play? I mean, was Wentz audible out of these plays? I mean, there's I think the disconnect in the locker room, the disconnect with Peterson, and what we're saying, I think that led to this nonsense. And I think Roseman might need some credit for actually drafting Hurts in the second round because there might have been some internal talk about Wentz not being there long term. A complete buyer's remorse immediately.
I continue to believe that that pick came from the owner. I really do. I'll still believe that came down from the higher levels to pick this kid, and this is how it's going to be. They're going to move on from Wentz somehow, some way.
But why would Hurts be the owner's pick? Like I could see like in Miami. Like when we had the draft, it was between Herbert and Tua, right? And I said that Miami's going to take Tua simply because it's going to be jersey sales, it's going to be hype, it's going to be Alabama, it's going to be the South. And guess what? Tua's jersey is in top 5 in the NFL this season. Justin Herbert's jersey isn't anywhere to be found. So, and that had nothing to do with the players. See, that would be more of an owner's pick, right? Hurts doesn't have the same impact that like a Tua or or a Burrow has. So why would it be coming from the owner? Because he's not filling the seats. There's nothing to be filled.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at Hurst. I mean, he's in the second round pick. There's a kid that's an absolute winner in college. I mean, he's proven himself. He's coming back. He's come back. He switched teams. He led 2 teams to a national championship. I mean, he's a proven winner. You got him staring right at you, and the owner knows everything going on. There's something going on. I just don't feel like Roseman and Doug made this pick without asking the owner and the owner approving. It wouldn't make any sense to me.
Well,
if the owner didn't know this, I mean, then then Doug and Howie have to go.
I mean, the stupidity is if you really got a question mark about Wentz, then you don't pay him that money. Then you don't give him the 5-year deal and you don't pony up all that dough.
Money's not.
I'm saying that's the thing. If it was 2 or 3 years out of the money, then it's a different story. But I mean, so close to giving him all that money, then the following year you draft a guy, that's just a recipe for disaster there. And to get back to the draft pick point, I don't think. And again, it could be wrong. There's teams out there that are going to give up a second-round pick for a guy that's had a terrible year this year and last year started his descent. That's my only concern. Do you think that they can give you a second-round pick, take Wentz, and turn him around to the point where he's playing like a second-round pick? I don't know if he's that far gone now. Like I said, a third-round pick, you might be able to get a third-round pick for somebody, but I don't think you're going to get more than a 4 for him at this point because he's played terrible this year, and last year he started his descent. So,
and Schefter just tweeted out, and one of the primary reasons why Wentz is asking for a trade is because his relationship, quote unquote, with Doug Peterson is fractured beyond repair. So that's where you see the disconnect. And by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't win any national championships. The only national championship he won was in Alabama, and Tua Tagovailoa had to come in and bail his ass out, and that's the whole thing. So he didn't win 2 national championships. He barely won one. He held the clipboard for one, just like Wentz did. So maybe it's a great replacement.
I mean, maybe they were thinking something a way of Green Bay situation where they drafted Love. I mean, they already had Rodgers in there, but maybe Love would replace him down the road. And Rodgers just is tearing it up this year. He's just having a phenomenal year. But listen, I just think this thing by the Eagles totally backfired in their face with this whole thing, giving him money and then drafting Hurts, and now he's out.
It's been my primary criticism is I didn't see anything to make a tangible change in my mind last year. So he was the same guy he was prior to when the ink hit paper. For me,
he was, but Brian, he wasn't though. You keep saying that he wasn't.
I didn't see anything last year.
You're in the Carson Wentz fan club, and I don't know why.
Whether you liked him or you didn't, I don't think last year changed your mind.
It definitely did. Last year changed my mind 100%. 2 years ago, I said that Wentz was better than Dak Prescott. What you seen last year was Dak Prescott slowly elevate. You've seen footwork and everything like that. Everything was better. You've seen improvement from a traditional football standpoint. His improvement with his footwork was better. His reads were better. His accuracy was better, but it was still a little bit. But then Wentz still seemed like he had the much more talent. But by the end of last year, it was like this. It was like this. Okay? Because you didn't see any improvement from Wentz. You've seen regression. And probably from the regression is because, listen, this relationship with Doug Peterson didn't just break overnight. It wasn't like he walked in and Doug Peterson was banging his wife or something like that, okay? This was a slow progression, and it was dissolving. So Wentz's play on the field has been going down. His locker room criticism, which we heard all last year and the year before, he was getting criticized really big in the locker room, but I guess it came from Alshon Jeffrey or Kyrie Champ or whoever was releasing the reports. So there is a lot of smoke to the slow dissolving of the relationship with Carson Wentz and that. And here's the other thing too: if somebody trades for his contract, okay, in 2 years, it's not going to be a horrible contract because all the other contracts are going to be escalating too. So when you got these guys are re-signing, and when Dak's going to make more money than them, I mean, there's a lot of these. It's not going to be such a horrible deal because there's been a ton of horrible deals out there. You look at Kirk Cousins and stuff like that. Is it change of scenery best for Wentz? And probably. Can he still salvage his career? Absolutely. But what the Eagles going to get in return for him? I mean, that's a whole big. That's another scenario.
Yep.
Well, one opening we know there's going to be there is in New England. Cam Newton, who was brought there on a minimum wage deal this year, he is expected to be out in New England. They are not going to continue there with Cam. I had said coming into the season that I thought that if he didn't succeed in New England, his NFL career was over. Because I think if you cannot succeed in New England, you can't succeed anywhere, especially given the fact that how many guys have come off of the waiver wire from other teams that were released, gone there and played extremely, extremely well. So I guess I'm not surprised that this 1 year marriage is getting, destroyed here. I don't think Mike is.
Cam Newton stinks. Okay. And like Brian said, you can't make it New England with Bill Belichick as a coach. What's there to do? The Superman crap. I'm sick of seeing it. Scores a touchdown, does Superman. Does nothing for New England. Didn't get him in the playoffs. Congratulations, Cam. Made history. You haven't gotten New England in the playoffs in like 12 or 13 years now. Very nice. Very nice. But I think he'll be a backup somewhere. I mean, somebody will sign him to be a veteran presence there and just to scoop up a couple games here and there when they need to. But other than that, he's not going to be a starter in this league. As bad as some teams are and they need a quarterback, Cam Newton will not start for another team in the NFL. He'll be a backup.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with this. His play has just been atrocious. It's so painful to watch this guy play football. And he's not far from being an MVP. So it's the drop off is just he just fell right off the cliff. But in regards to New England, I mean, their roster is horrible. They have no skilled players on offense. Like they need a quarterback, but they need so much more on that team. Their roster is just depleted with talent.
But Anthony, I want to ask you this real quick. I want to ask you this real quick. Do you think Cam Newton and me and Brian have talked about this on our show? Cam Newton has declined, I think, ever since that year he had where he claims that they weren't calling hits on him, where he was getting hit and bashed and they weren't throwing flags at all. Ever since that year, he has been afraid to run as much as he did coming into this league. And that's hurt a guy like Cam Newton because that's one of his strengths was to run and evade people.
He hasn't been the same since not getting that fumble in the Super Bowl.
Oh,
he hasn't been the same since he was pouting at the end of that game when they were peppering him with questions. He's like,
yep.
Like he completely and then I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's when he actually started like dressing like a weirdo as well. So I'm not sure there's any kind of correlation there.
That fumble was
I'm convinced too. I'm convinced he seriously got some kind of shoulder issue. Has always had some kind of shoulder issues because
he probably heard his shoulder stealing them laptops at Florida.
But yeah, I mean it's just painful watching him. I mean Cam Newton, he'll get picked up. He should be a specialty player that teams just go for 2 points all the time. Wildcat, make him run, be a specialty player. That's all he can really be in the NFL.
Well,
short down guy.
He can't even run the Wildcat though. He can't even run the Wildcat anymore.
Well, by definition, the Wildcat doesn't have a quarterback under center, but whatever. When you're looking at Cam Newton, here's the problem, and you guys mentioned too with the Wildcat, he needs to be a run first quarterback. He just can't take the run. He can't be a run first quarterback. And one of the biggest things about Cam Newton is that he in today's NFL. Right, I had this conversation, or actually earlier this morning. When you look at why running quarterbacks are more successful now in the NFL than has been in years past in the heyday of Peyton Manning and when Drew Brees was just straight in pocket and Tom Brady, these guys, is because the NFL changed the rules where everybody's running free. All the receivers are running wide open. That's why you see completion percentage of like 70%. Even inaccurate quarterbacks are very, very high completion percentage because it's the type of throws. You can't jam the receivers, you can't touch it, and everything like that. So all the rules are for somebody like Cam Newton to succeed because he's mobile, but he can't, and he's inaccurate. So when you're looking at that, it's between the ears with him because there's no other excuse for Cam Newton. It's his body can't hold up running how he's supposed to run, even though he's built like a defensive end. And in between his ears, though, he hit the plateau, right? MVP in the Super Bowl. Cam Newton was the man. Super Bowl, all this kind of Superman shit. It went to his head. He checked out. He's all about the money. He's not about winning football. He doesn't do the work to improve. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. Right? He's not out there. Drew Trammell brings up the shoulder injury. His boy Drew Brees had a shoulder injury. Guys, what did Drew Brees do? He worked hard. He got in. He became, he was accurate no matter what the rules were. Cam isn't going to put that extra work in. He's not. He hit the plateau. He got his money, and now he's good to go. And whatever happens with the rest of Cam Newton's career, it doesn't matter.
Cam blows.
Yeah, I just look. I mean, to me, that 1 year was an outlier, and I've said that his whole career. Like, I have not been overly impressed with what he's done in the NFL, and then the MVP year, I give him full credit for it. But that was the outlier. Like, everything went right, and he was never the same after that. So he might just this might just be what he is, and that 1 year was literally just a godsend, and that's he made some money on it. But
and everybody goes back to that. Oh, MVP. Listen, he was an MVP a long time ago, and he went from here to down here in a heartbeat.
You know who else was MVP? Brian? Matt Ryan.
Yeah, he hasn't won anything either. That team's
Exactly.
He's still playing at a good level, though. I mean, you guys all bench Matt Ryan. I think he's playing at a good level.
So we just ball bust.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
All right.
Defense stinks, but.
Last but not least, so Matt Stafford's future is up in the air in Detroit. I mean, he's gone through so many head coaches and so much bad football up there. He is 32. He'll be 33 on Super Bowl Sunday. So if you're bringing in a new regime that may want to make some changes there, it could be a situation where now he has not asked for a trade, but he's literally been through the ringer up there. And, no, Detroit has not had any semblance of success, and people have retired there just to get the hell out. But I don't necessarily think that it is a problem that Matt Stafford created. He may not have done a whole lot to help it. They put a lot of assets around him, but are we looking at the end of Matt Stafford in Detroit? And is that then another team looking for a quarterback and another quarterback looking for a team?
I think he's got maybe a 3 to 4 year shelf life left for somebody, and he should go somewhere else, because to talk about a guy who needs to change the scenery, that's a guy I think he's a good quarterback and can play in a good system. And maybe he goes to New England. Maybe he's the guy. Who knows? I mean, but I think Matt Stafford still has some good years ahead of him. I just think Detroit's a bad team. So
yeah, he could use a change of scenery, Matt Stafford. It'd be nice to see him in a different uniform. Think he could play, but last couple of years he's oft injured. Man, he's really got banged up, head injuries, so it's a little concerning with him.
Let me ask you guys this, though. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, Detroit stinks," blah blah blah. Absolutely, Matt Stafford. When you're talking about a physical comparison, the guy has phenomenal physical tools from a quarterback standpoint. I mean, there's not much that he cannot do when he throws the football. He can make every throw. Reading accuracy like that. But at what point do we put some of the onus and blame for Detroit not being a good team onto the quarterback? Because there has to be some reasoning, right? I mean, we always if the Buccaneers went 2-15 this year or 2-14 or whatever, right? Tom Brady would be getting absolutely annihilated, right?
Right.
Stafford never has any of that criticism. Everybody's like, "Oh, Stafford's great, but Detroit sucks." Well, if you're actually truly great at the quarterback position, especially, you raise your team up. If Stafford goes immediately to a team that's already good, he's gonna do well. I mean, because he's a very talented player. But let's not just throw it away like, oh well, Detroit's bad and it's not Matt Stafford's fault. There has to be a time where you have to kind of bring the blame to him for not being on the field, right? Your best ability is availability. It's all cliche in the NFL. He hasn't been available. He's played for some tough industry. He lost I know he lost a playoff game to Dallas. I don't remember other playoffs he was in.
They lost to the Saints. I think they were the only two.
So he's been in the playoffs, 2 in the last 5 years, I guess it is. So, I mean.
I don't even think. I have to go back.
He's got it there, but he hasn't got them over the hump. But, I mean, New England, any quarterback needed team that's actually in a good position to win. I mean, would benefit from, but he hasn't gotten the job done in the playoffs at all.
Since 2011, they've lost at the Saints, 2014 lost at the Cowboys, 2016 lost at Seattle. The franchise has one playoff win in 1991, and the only one since 1957 that came against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right.
Not good.
So when we just throw it out there that's saying that the Detroit sucked, Detroit has been in the playoffs 3 times in the last 9 years, right? So I mean, Drew says they're 0-2. I mean, I don't know what you just said, Brian. He's 0-3. Maybe Stafford didn't play in one of them. I don't know off the top of my head, but I mean, something has to give there. You know, maybe he's that quarterback that just doesn't come up in a big time, because you can't say a team that's been in the playoffs 3 times in 9 years absolutely sucked. They've had horrible seasons, but sucking, is relative.
And Tony, to your point, I think you're 100% right. I just think, and why he gets the pass, it's not right either, but it's just because Detroit's been bad for a while, and everybody just expects, all right, well, they're bad, give them another pass, whatever like that. And you're right.
There's a lot of teams, but saying they're bad, there's a lot of teams out there, Mike, that would want to be in the playoffs 3 times every 3 years during the playoffs.
No, you're right. I'm just saying, I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league to pick a team up and take them on his back. He's a very good quarterback. I just don't think he's that kind of quarterback to just carry a team into the playoffs like a Rodgers or somebody else like that.
To be fair, Mike, your Buccaneers, this is the first time they've been in since 2007. So the Lions have made 3 appearances since.
True, but the Bucs have had talent there. I mean, they haven't been good defensively, but the offensive talent has been there. A quarterback now is just utilizing that talent, and it's been effective. That's what's going on.
But to Brian's
Stafford's
point,
never had a running back. Detroit's never had a running back.
They've always been hurt.
Hand the ball off 20 to 25 times a game. He's never had support in the backfield. He's been slinging the ball around 30, 40 times for years. I mean, you're going to throw interceptions. There's so much pressure on him. I mean, he's had it tough there because he's had no help in the backfield.
And in 2014, in 2014, they had a wide receiver there by the name of Calvin Johnson, who's an absolute beast. So, I mean, that helped out a little.
The rest of the team was incomplete. They had no defense. Like I said, they had no running game. It was just Matthew Stafford throwing to Calvin Johnson. I mean,
when's the last time Detroit had any kind of?
They've missed out on draft pick after draft pick there, and it's hurt him.
Yeah, sorry, Ant. When's the last time Detroit had any kind of defense, a consistent defense? They've been terrible for years. Exactly.
Well, they drafted Sue. I mean, and they let him go.
Nick Fairley. I mean, they tried to. They just didn't do it well.
Listen, it's a bad organization making bad moves. Yeah, exactly.
So it isn't a quarterback. Obviously, is the most high profile position, but it isn't just players who, have some questions here. I just want to talk about real quick the top 2 picks in the draft, the Jags and the Jets. They're going to be number 1 and number 2 unless the Jets do something really stupid like win today. I don't think they can I don't know if they can move up or not. Briefly, did Justin Fields' performance against Clemson the other night change any things at all for you at number 1? The Jaguars have been linked now to Urban Meyer, potentially as a head coach. They've been linked to, I believe it was the OSU coordinator who obviously was with Justin Fields. I don't know if that's smoke. But the 2-part question here is one for both teams. Is number 1, is Trevor Lawrence number 1? No question about it. Jags, take him and move on. Or then do the Jets take a quarterback at 2, assuming it's not Trevor, or do they go for Fields, or do they use that pick to build around Darnold? And I'll start with Quig.
Well, I think the performance from Justin Fields the other night hasn't really changed my opinion of him as far as in competition with Trevor Lawrence. Because what you saw against Northwestern in a couple games, he was very erratic. When Christian Olave was in the lineup, he really struggled because the rhythm was off and everything. When they played Clemson, he kind of stepped it up a little bit. He missed a couple deep throws, but for the most part, the performance was good. Dude, now here's the funny thing. When you throw in the Urban Meyer and the Ryan Day rumors to Jacksonville, are they? I mean, it'd be very, very, very interesting to see if one of them take the job and then not select their quarterback. Well, it's not Urban Meyer's quarterback, but he's still linked strongly to Ohio State, and so it would be very interesting. If Urban Meyer winds up there, I think it's more likely that it's Trevor Lawrence. If Ryan Day goes there, I'd be very shocked if he. I mean, look what Kirk Kingsbury did. Right, he went and got rid of everything. I want my boy Kyler Murray. So it would be interesting if I'm the Jaguars organization, I do not bring in Urban Meyer, Mr. Fake Heart Attack Frog himself. There's a nickname of Urban Liar for a reason. He has no NFL experience. If you have an option to take a a quarterback to really change your franchise around in Trevor Lawrence, and you pass on him because you want Urban Meyer, like I said again, no NFL experience, or a Ryan Day, I think that's a huge mistake, but it would be a very Jacksonville mistake. But if I'm Jacksonville, I'm still continuing my head coaching search, and I'm going with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, there's still a big gap between Trevor Lawrence and Fields. I mean, we're going to find out what Fields is made of when he's got to go against this Alabama secondary that's filled with guys from the NFL. We're going to see what he could really do. Yeah, if you're Jacksonville, I agree with Tony. Get a coach, get Trevor Lawrence, and just move forward. I think this really just puts the Jets in a bind. You know, they're screwing themselves. They screwed themselves twice now. So now the Jets saw that performance, and now that puts doubt in their mind what they want to do with Darnold. So I think this affects the Jets the most. I mean, just really puts them in a bind.
And I was going to bring this point up from Ryan Leach. You know, we talk a lot about USC quarterbacks not succeeding at the NFL level. I mean, given the recent news with Dwayne Haskins, I can't think off the top of my head of an OSU guy who's come in and played well in the NFL for any sustained period of time. Well, I would like to think that they're not going to hold anything that Dwayne Haskins did in the NFL against Justin Fields. That wouldn't be fair just because you go to the same school. The same way that the USC argument was brought up for Sam Darnold, fair or not, it was.
You didn't like Bobby Hoying when he was with the Eagles?
Not a fan.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I think we're really overlooking and over sensationalizing, right? I mean, when you're talking about Ohio State quarterbacks not being productive in the NFL, you're talking about guys like Terrell Pryor, Dwayne Haskins,
Cardale Jones,
that kind of stuff. And I think that's a little unfair to Justin Fields. Also, if you want to give credit to Joe Burrow, who wasn't originally an Ohio State Buckeye, the offensive scheme now in the NFL, you've seen more success of dual threat quarterbacks. And Justin Fields is an elite level mind as well. He's not a Dwayne Haskins. He's got very good leadership skills. He's a pocket quarterback more than just a running quarterback. Okay, Trevor Lawrence might even have better running ability than Fields, which is saying a lot, but he just doesn't utilize it as much because of the team that they play, the team offense that they play. So let's be very quick to lump these guys as Ohio State quarterbacks don't do anything in the NFL. And I hate Ohio. I'm a fan of the school up north, and it's been tough, but you have to give Justin Fields a little bit more credit than that.
I think Trevor Lawrence, will be the pick at number one. I think Fields helped himself because he showed it the tough aspect of his game, getting drilled like he did, disappearing for the first quarter, but then really coming alive and playing through all that pain and stuff. I think that only helped his status. And like Anthony said, that just put doubt in the mind of the Jets now. The Jets, I've heard some swirls, and Brian, we talked about this on our show too, that I think that they should trade that pick. I mean, I think it's going to be, you guys all say take Fields or take a quarterback or take that. They're not one player away, the Jets. They got to move down, get multiple picks, and try to rebuild this team with multiple people and hope they stick. That's been the problem with the Jets. They make moves and they don't stick. That's been the problem.
Well, with the Jets, you have to have somebody willing to trade up, though.
Yeah. I think Douglas will be that guy. I think Douglas will be the guy to get this thing going in the right direction. So I think he's had the experience before, and I think he needs some time to get everything in place. They just can't make bad moves like they've been in the past, and they'll just keep going back to what they've been doing. I think Darnold's fine.
Well, what team would trade up for him, though?
That's the thing. I think there's somebody up there that'll go to 2. I mean, who knows?
We'll see. But now this is the thing, that whether they trade down or not, right?
Yeah.
If you're not getting Trevor Lawrence, I just don't know that I have to make a change at quarterback to a guy like Justin Fields, because I can go take a guy like Sewell from Oregon and continue to build my offensive line no matter what happens. And these guys, as we found out a couple of years ago with the Baker draft and the Darnold draft, Quentin Nelson looks like probably the best pick of that bunch, right? So
you can even take Purdy from Iowa State.
If you take Sewell and you suck again next year, you're going to have a high pick and you can figure it out. Yeah. So You know what I mean? Like if you're not getting the guy, if you assume that Trevor's the guy, and that's what I'm working under, that there is a significant gap between him and Fields at the pro level, it makes a ton of sense to me to go take Sewell out of Oregon, continue to build one of the most important parts of the team, and if I suck again, and I probably will, figure it out the next draft because I've already got that piece there.
This isn't a one quarterback draft either, or two quarterback draft, because guys like Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that have potential to have very good and long careers in the NFL. Offensive tackle, Penway Sewell, although he sat out most of this draft, is by far away the number one offensive tackle prospect. Last year's draft, you've seen a number of offensive tackles go into the top, in the first round. This year, it's a huge position in need. But you don't. There's the talent level. There might be a bigger gap between Penway Sewell than Trevor Lawrence. So I mean, if you're going to go out there and grab Sewell on an offensive tackle, if you could get a team like Atlanta to trade up or something like that, and you don't have to, because if Sewell's sitting there for the Bengals, they might have to take him there just to protect Trevor. They pass on Jamar Chase. But quarterbacks and receivers are going to be the story of the first round NFL draft.
Your top or your bottom three team in the league, and you got those first three picks. You got to make a pick that's going to move you forward. It doesn't necessarily have to make the team enormously great, because that's like a long shot that's going to happen, but it's going to move that needle forward to the rest of your draft. And that's what you got to do. New England's done it for years with keeping guys third, fourth, fifth round on a roster and making an impact. And that's what you got to do in the draft.
New England is an outlier, because when you get the best quarterback in the history of the NFL as a sixth-round draft pick, who's willing to take pay cuts to keep that roster, I mean, that's a complete unique situation.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so when you hit a home run like that on quarterback, everything else is just out the door.
But Tony, in their sense too, like their defense, I mean, they've picked guys that they've plugged in from the third, fourth, and fifth round on that have stayed with this team for a while. They may have not been superstars, some of them have been, but a lot of guys stay on the roster, and that's a lot of teams' problem is that they draft past the fourth and fifth round, fall asleep, and the guy ends up off the roster in 2 years, and that's a wasted draft. And that's what New England does best. They have those guys late in the draft that stay on their roster and stay on the team and help the team out in some aspects.
Last but not least, before we get into the games, tomorrow is proverbial Black Monday. It is the day when a lot of NFL head coaching jobs open up. Just last year, there were 8 head coaching openings, which was 25% of the league. You go back to, there were 6 in 2019. There were 4 in 2018, 4 in 2017. So you can expect there are going to be some changes. It is a results-oriented world. And if you're not winning, you need to be replaced. We already know pretty comfortable 2 names that are going to be out, Adam Gase with the Jets and Doug Marrone with Jacksonville. Those 2 really aren't surprises. There's a couple of interim spots, like Detroit and Atlanta, which we'll see get filled. You look around the league, I guess if I had to ask you 1 or 2 names on both sides of this, who do you think won't get fired that should, and who will get fired that shouldn't? Anybody just kind of stick out to anyone there?
Good question.
I'll say I think a guy who should be fired, who I think got his job saved this year by a quarterback, is Anthony Lynn of the Chargers. I honestly don't think if that doctor, they should probably send this doctor a Christmas card too. If he doesn't accidentally puncture the lung of Tyrod Taylor, Herbert doesn't get in until really late in the year, and we don't see what this kid's progressing into. I really do. I think he was going to go with Tyrod Taylor as long as he could to try to win or think he could win. And Herbert wasn't going to play until late in the year. And I think that happened. He had to put Herbert in, and look what happened. He's done well, and now I think it saved his job. But he's a guy I think that should be fired because he's not a good coach.
Well, as far as guys who will stay and should be fired, I'm in the camp that Mike McCarthy should be let go and they should redo. But they already committed again to Kellen Moore. Looks like defense coordinator will make a change there. But I think McCarthy keeping his job is it might be bad long term. But we'll see who gets to blame in Dallas for this mess. Doug Marrone. What was Jacksonville really expecting to do this season that they haven't done? right? So I don't know if Marrone just wore out his welcome there or what, but they knew they weren't a good football team. I mean, he came in with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. So where are you actually expecting to get wins from? I mean, so as an owner, you want to have a foundation for your team set. And if you just make a change of quarterback just for the sake of making a change of quarterback because it's a bad team, I mean, not quarterback, head coach, when you have no quarterback, what are you really accomplishing? Gates is kind of the same way. He's just been a bigger shit show in New York than, just kind of embarrassment. Your boy, Ryan Pace, I think, saved his job though, right?
Yeah, they both saved their jobs. Like I said, if you would have asked me 4 weeks ago, Nagy probably deserved to go, but I believe they saved their jobs these last 4 weeks. So I can't really say him. He's going to be coming back, it looks like. Other than that, Gase and Marrone, I mean, coming to the season that was going to be there last year.
I mean, is there any talk of John Gruden? I mean, they've not been good. Like they're not. Yeah. I get like you have this like long deal. I get you have like this ownership stake or whatever. But like at some point, maybe like John Gruden, the partial owner, should be firing John Gruden, the head coach, because the results have been really bad, and they had every opportunity to make a playoff run this year. Not even. I mean, like the disastrous type stuff, and a lot of it comes down to Gruden's coaching, in my opinion. I mean, really, they almost lost to the Jets. So. Like at some point, hey, like, can I see some results here?
I mean, it could be because he had a 10-year deal when he signed, and he's got part of the team. But
when you look at the Gruden hiring in its totality, it was just moronic. I mean, he was out of the league for a number of years. Yeah. So you think they just could walk in there, hand him the keys to the franchise with Mike Mayock, who had zero experience for in a position like that. So that was just head shock, a little head scratching when they did it. And, I wasn't a fan of Gruden when he was relevant in the NFL. And now that when they brought him back, he hasn't showed anything, at all, except trying to give his quarterback Derek Carr a headache all the time.
Well, I think they wanted to make a big splash too with the name guy, and I think that's why they brought him in and made the move.
It was a publicity stunt, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. They were moving to Vegas.
$100 million publicity stunt.
Big, well.
Guy's been out of the league. Guy's been out of the league for a decade.
I mean, every year, Gruden's name came up. Every team, every year, Gruden came up. Finally, you give him the right money, he's going to take it. And it was the Raiders to do it.
Yep.
So we're going to go through a couple of these games. We'll go through all of them, but I guess we'll focus on the ones that actually have some meaning. And the first one on the docket here, the Miami Dolphins 10-5 at the 12-3 Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry.
Real quick, Austin Brian Lee Napier has a question about Matt Rule. Matt Rule is solid as can be in Carolina.
Yeah.
He's a good coach.
Matt Rule is actually being involved in the search for the GM. So Carolina loves Matt Rule. They're sticking with him. I think they've had some solid results, in Carolina for maybe even exceeding expectations, especially early on in the season with what he's doing down there. So Rule's safe, and I think whatever GM they bring would be given with Rule's blessing too. So I mean, it should be a good partnership down there.
And Tony, to add to that, they've done it without McCaffrey. He's been hurt a ton this year. I mean, they've won games without him, which is, I mean, you've needed McCaffrey in the past. They've done some good things without him, which only makes it better when he gets back.
And in reality, what are they going to do against the Saints and the Bucks? Like what are your realistic expectations? You're going to bring in Teddy Bridgewater and have and first year head coach Matt Rule, and you're going to go topple the Saints and the Buccaneers. Nah, that's not reality.
Fly under the radar, rebuild them is all they're doing.
Bills are a 3-point favorite today. They are playing for the 2 seed. Everything you hear is that they're not taking anything off here. Like they really want to get that 2 seed. So they're going full out here. For the Miami Dolphins, they will make the playoffs with a win today, or a Baltimore loss, or a Cleveland loss, or a Colts loss. So they have a couple different ways to get in, but they can handle their own business themselves, not have to worry about it. Those other 3 teams are very heavy favorites today, which we'll talk about. Buffalo, as we've noted, is the AFC East champions. Congratulations to them. The Bills have won 6 of their last 7 games. All 6 wins have been by at least 10 points. Dolphins 9-2 since week 5 after starting 1-3. I guess if I'm the Bills and I don't get that bye week, I would seriously consider maybe sitting some players today. I understand why they're not doing it. I kind of disagree with that. Only you can say, well, you don't want to let Miami in the playoffs, and maybe that's true. But, again, in previous years, you'd have a bye here, and you're not getting one now. So I'll defer to the group. Are you surprised they're going all in here?
Well, something's going on. The line changed. The Dolphins are actually favored by 3 right now. So something's going on. I'm seeing the Bills maybe play the first half maybe and see how this game goes. But something's going on. The line definitely switched over.
The tight end Croft is out because of COVID, and Cole Beasley's out now. But yeah, like you, Ann, that's kind of weird that line is where it is. They still have something to play for. I don't know why they would. Just stay the first half.
No, they don't have anything to play for.
Well, they can still get that number 2 seed. Yeah, they can still get that number 2.
But they're locked into 2 or 3. So they can't fall anything below 3. And now, when you're looking at the 2 seed or the 1 seed, it's not. If you don't get the bye, the 2 to 3 doesn't matter. So I expect
a must win.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a little crazy too, because Tua has not looked great. We'll see what that defense does. There's no Fitzmagic to bail them out now. Ryan Leach saying, yeah, Josh Allen will not play more than a quarter. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if about a quarter, because I think it's more would go into a number of series than actual quarter. So he'll play a few series, and then they'll probably take him out just to stay sharp, because that offense has looked great. You don't want to lose any continuity by taking a bye week off. Resting everybody. Go out there, get some reps in. Everybody stay healthy. And we'll see what Tua can do. But this game isn't a lock for Miami by no means, though. Even if the Buffalo rest them, because that defense needs to step up, because the offense really struggled. You got to think they were a Mac Collins miracle catch and a face mask penalty away from losing last week, and there's no Fitzmagic this week.
Yeah.
Bills first
for me, look, I agree. I think that they're not going to play their starters the whole way. Get them some. You really should get some rest here, because you're not going to have the luxury you would normally have in previous years. You get that second seed bye, and they're going to have a tough road. It's not going to be easy for them. I do think they're the second best team in the AFC. I don't think it's really that close, but I do think that it's not an infallible road to potentially an AFC title game in Kansas City, if that's the way that it goes. As far as the line goes, you're really just betting here if the Bills are going to play their starters or not, because I think if they do, they cover. If they don't, they don't. It's pretty much that simple. So, this is not a game I necessarily want to put any money on, but if the Bills do intend to play their starters, I think the Dolphins win the game.
Yeah, it was 1. It was at 1 this morning. At 9:00 this morning, it was at 1. Jumps up to 3.
Yeah, it's just the uncertainty around the game and how Bills are going to attack it, which we kind of have a good plan for. Probably causes that line. Yeah, so definitely don't bet on it.
Yeah, I don't think so. The 10-5 Baltimore Ravens will visit the 4-10-1 Cincinnati Bengals, and they are laying 14 points today. This is actually my final survivor pick of the year in a pool that I am in, which will end at the end of today. I had them. I'm going to use them here. Over-unders 44. Baltimore will make the playoffs with a win or a Cleveland loss or a Colts loss. The Bengals currently hold the 6th pick in the draft pending the results of this week. Lamar Jackson has the second highest winning percentage of starting quarterback since 1970. With 35 starts or more, only Mahomes has better. Ravens are on pace to be the first team to average 170-plus rushing yards in consecutive years since Walter Payton's Bears from 83 to 85. Again, if you're the Baltimore Ravens and you don't win this game, then you absolutely do not deserve to make the playoffs. I have absolute certainty they're going to win this game. 14 it's a little high because, they might take their foot off the gas in the second half. They're up quite a bit. Backdoor cover very much in play. But the Ravens, I can't see how they don't win this with everything they have on the line. And frankly, everything that the Bengals don't. You know, the Bengals, as I'm going to say for a lot of teams today, would benefit significantly from losing. So I think they're going to find a way to do that.
Yeah, listen, the Ravens are 14-0 as double-digit favorites. That's not going to change. Lamar Jackson, last couple games, they figured out that offense, his red zone efficiency. He's never thrown an interception in the red zone. He's number one in that aspect of it. Bet I like this today, even though last time they played Cincinnati, Lamar Jackson hasn't run much, but he'll be running all over the place today. A lot more runs drawn up. So I like Lamar Jackson over 62.5 yards rushing. I'll take Baltimore laying the 14 as well. I think they just run up and down the field on them. No Mark Ingram, but Gus Edwards is playing. So you see a lot of J.K. Dobbins as well. So it's going to be Ravens, and Ravens runs right through them. And their Ravens are also going to be a team no one wants to face in the playoffs.
Yeah, seems like they're hitting their stride. Defensively, they're flying around and moving around. Back to the Rays, he's used to staying. Mar, he's been throwing the ball down. He's effective in the red zone. Yeah, they're a dangerous team right now, and yeah, I could see them run away with this. At least a 17-point win today. I'd roll with that.
Yeah, I like Baltimore as well. I think they, like Brian said, they got to put their foot on the gas in this game and just show what they're made of going into the playoffs, because they're a scary team and they're going to be even more scarier. Even though, like Tony said, Ingram's out. I mean, you've seen Dobbins and you've seen Edwards this year. They're going to pick up the slack. I don't think it's going to be any problem for the Ravens to just roll through the Bengals, who are just trying to get the season over with. So yeah, I'll take the Ravens to lay the points.
And I think the Bengals really could use a guy like Sewell for sure. So they're going to want to get that loss, and they're going to hopefully try to position themselves that these teams move up for quarterbacks and he just falls into their hands. That would be the absolute perfect scenario for the Bengals to protect Joe Burrow.
Lamar Jackson today needs 92 yards to be the first quarterback in history to run for back-to-back 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Look for him to get that.
Yeah.
The 12-3 Pittsburgh Steelers, who finally got a win last week, will visit the 10-5 Browns. The Browns are laying 10 here with the over-under 43.5 because the Steelers will be resting players. Cleveland will make the playoffs with a win or a Colts loss or a Tennessee loss tied with a wins by Miami and Baltimore. Pittsburgh has won the AFC North. The Browns have not made the playoffs since 2002. Their 17-season playoff drought is tied for the second longest in the Super Bowl era. Steelers 35-7-1 against the Browns since 99. That's the best of any team in the league versus another. Browns have not won Week 17 since 2009. They're probably going to win today because I don't think Pittsburgh cares.
Well, no, Pittsburgh doesn't care. And in fact, they're actually starting Mason Rudolph, and we all remember what happened when Myles Garrett played Mason Rudolph last time. It was an interesting event. But Pittsburgh doesn't care so much that not only are they not playing Mason Rudolph, but they're probably only going to play him a half, and they're going to have Justin Dobbs in the game a lot too to see what he can do. So they're going to play in dual quarterback. It's going to be treated as a preseason game for the Steelers. Steelers linebacking core, ton of injuries, not good, because they're sitting. Not only are they sitting players, but now they're normal players that are starters aren't even healthy to play. Major injuries on the defensive end against a team like Cleveland Browns. When you got a team with a rushing attack of Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and Chubb over 71.5 yards is what I got in earlier today. I love that bet. I think they're just going to run them right through them. Cleveland laying 10. I'll never lay 10 on the Cleveland Browns ever, so I'm not touching that. But the Chubb rushing prop is where I'm at, and Cleveland wins this game and should win it rather easily, unless Baker becomes Baker of 2019 and they implode.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's clearly comfortable with the number 3 spot, so they're just sitting everybody. This is a game that Cleveland needs. I, too, like Tony, will not lay to 10 on Cleveland. I do like the Cleveland team total at 26.5. I think they could score 28 today against this Pittsburgh defense. So I'm going to roll that game. I got that in.
Yeah, I really don't like the 10 either with the rest of the panel. But Pittsburgh's going to lay down in this game. They really got to rest a lot of people. I do like the over-under number. I like the under. I think it's going to be a sloppy game, but I think Cleveland's going to score a ton of points, but not enough because Pittsburgh, they're resting everybody. They're not really going to go crazy either. So I like the under in this game.
Austin says Browns make the playoffs. I think. Well, listen, they can handle their business today in a game with not a lot of pushback coming from a divisional rival. I think Cleveland obviously wins. 10 might be whatever, but Cleveland's going to the playoffs. So congrats to the long-suffering Browns fans. It's something positive at the very least. A game with no playoff implication with the bottom two teams in the NFC North, 6-9 Vikings at 5-10 Lions. Vikings -4 over under 54. For Minnesota, Dalvin Cook will not play. Unfortunately, his father, James, passed away at the age of 46. Sorry to hear that. Condolences to the Cook family who's probably not watching. For Detroit, we're expecting Stafford to play today. Minnesota's holding the 12th pick right now. Detroit holding the 9th pick. Again, losing is winning here. I mean, this has no impact on anybody, but if I'm Minnesota or I'm Detroit, I'd like to pick higher. So, like I said, I'd rather lose this game than either of those two teams.
Yeah, Stafford is playing. Like we've said earlier in the show, you're going to look at the last game that he plays for Detroit. So I don't have a solid lean. It's not a game with any kind of implications at all. Might get a little sloppy out there. I just avoid with a slight lean at over 54.
This is a good game for player props. You can see Thielen and Jefferson going off against this Detroit defense. Might be a good day for some Minnesota player props. But yeah, this game is pointless. No one's going to be watching it. I don't plan to see a lot of it on Red Zone. So
every touchdown, baby, every touchdown.
Yeah, it's this. Oh God, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, yeah. I don't think this is going to be a good game either. I do like the over in this game, though. I think there's a lot of guys out for Minnesota. I know Dalvin Cook's out, but a lot of defensive guys out for Minnesota, which, Stafford is playing. I think he'll throw for a little bit. I think this game will go back and forth. Like Anthony said, Jefferson's a good prop bet today. I don't like the game itself, but I do like the over 54. I think that's going to be kind of a shootout with two terrible teams going at it.
And those of you interested in the numbers, we have Justin Jefferson over 79.5 and Adam Thielen over 70.5. If you want those props.
Yeah.
Again, both of these teams are going to have some issues coming in the next year, but we'll see where they go. In Adam Gase's swan song as the New York Jets head coach, which is about 10 weeks too late, 2-13 visiting the New England Patriots, 6-9 in Cam Newton's swan song in New England. Patriots -3 over under is 40. Gase will be fired at the end of the year. Jets currently hold the 2 pick, which we've said ad nauseum today. Patriots at 13. The interest here is not so much on the field. No one's going to care. But what are the odds the Pats at 13, depending how the draft falls, look for a quarterback?
Pats at 13. I mean, they're going to have some interesting options. I don't know if Belichick is somebody who wants to invest the 13th pick in a quarterback. I mean, I can't see that. That hasn't really been his game plan over the years. I mean, with Mr. Brady. So, and if there's a fall of a Trey Lance, or I don't even know how big he would. He doesn't seem like a Trey Lance guy. Mac Jones seems a little bit more like a Patriots quarterback pick at 13, but I still don't think that they go quarterback at all.
It's possible they trade down, do what the Patriots do, and get out of there and collect picks because, like I said earlier,
nobody else.
That roster is not good. They have no playmakers on the offense, and to be fair, a lot of their guys on defense took the year off, so they'll be getting a lot of guys back on that side of the ball. But it's possible Belichick trades back, just collects picks.
Yeah, I agree. I like Tony said, and Anthony said, I don't agree with him going for a quarterback in the first round when there's quarterbacks in this draft that they can get in the 3rd and 4th round. That'll be just fine. I mean, you already got Stenham up there, so I mean, who knows? He could be the guy that they're looking at, and just bring in a guy for for the far future if that doesn't work out. But as for the game, I kind of leaning towards the Jets a little bit. I think they've botched the season up already enough, and Gase is on his way out. They want to win one for him, maybe not, but I think the Patriots stink and that they're playing out the season as well. I kind of like the Jets in this a little bit with the 3, the over under. I probably wouldn't touch the over under. I wouldn't have to lay money on it, but I kind of like the Jets a little bit.
Yeah, the Jets are the better team, the team that's playing better right now. The Patriots are not. I mean,
yeah. And there was a stat out there that the Jets play really well against teams that run the ball. And with White and them like that, and not having a wide receiving court,
because they have a good defensive line. That's the strong part of the team. The Jets have a strong defensive line. So I wouldn't be shocked.
As we noted last week when we played the Jets.
What's that?
I said, as we noted last week when we were discussing Jets.
Yeah.
As far as
Belichick, he thinks trades back. He might take a flyer on Dwayne Haskins. Austin says Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Kyle Trask would be there at that pick. I mean, really, Belichick, I mean, they do whatever they want. They take guys off the board all the time. So they don't really subscribe to, any sort of mock draft or rankings anybody has. And they've been successful doing it. So give them.
I just can't see that. I can't see Belichick wanting to work with a rookie quarterback. He wants to get right back at it. I think he's going to try to find someone established and just collect draft picks. I can't see.
He's going to be looking at Stafford or a Matt Ryan or somebody like that to finish out their career there. That still has a little left in the tank. Prop bet, Jamison Crowder over 52.5. Love it.
Okay.
Kind of a playoff game in a weird way. The 6-9 Dallas Cowboys visited the 5-10 New York Giants, laying 1.5. Over unders 44.5. This is the NFC East Championship game, maybe, depending on what Washington does tonight. So the winner of this game with a Washington loss would make the playoffs at either 6 or 7 wins if the Washington football team loses to a disinterested Eagles team. Tony, well, the whole last couple of weeks has really just pissed me off. I can't even put into words how much it's pissed me off, because they were in position to draft very high, and now they're not. And it could get lower and lower depending how this day goes. It is a lost season in every sense of the word. And I will tell you that they find their way into the playoffs to get their dicks kicked in by the Buccaneers next week. I just don't really think that that's in any way remotely positive for anyone. Like, you don't get anything out of that. So I understand. I view things my way, so I want to give the floor to you. And maybe I'm overly negative, and that's fine. But I just don't see any point in them getting in, frankly.
Well, Bri, I mean, me and you struggled through the season, and we were both on the bus of tank, get the best draft pick. But right now, when you look at the situation, the Cowboys have the 9th pick, I believe it is, in the current draft, maybe the 8th, depending on what happens. If they win they have the 12th pick. If they win the division, they get the 19th pick. So the tanking and all that is.
Yeah, I showed them.
Pick it up. I gotta leave for the studio.
Might have some technical difficulties there. He'll be right back.
Yep.
Well, I'll ask you guys. I mean, look, you guys know how I feel about this. I mean, I've said from the get-go, as soon as Dak went down, this was a lost season. Oh, coming right back. There we go.
There he is.
Oh.
Maybe not. There we go.
No, I'm sorry. It was hanging a little bit. Yeah. So the Cowboys have the 11th pick, 12th pick. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're 11th right now.
All right. So the difference between the 11th pick and the 19th pick aren't worth it. So what I want right now, I'm rooting for Cowboys win now. Let's get into the playoffs, get a matchup against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dallas versus Tom Brady would be fun, be something fun to see in the playoffs. That's where I'm at right now, because the difference between 12 and 19 isn't significant enough now. When they were in the top 5 and they had that role for the top 5, and that let's go all for the pick. But now when you're dealing with that pick differential, it really isn't that big of a deal. If they wanted to send some future capital up, if somebody falls in the 12th spot, especially when a lot of teams might be quarterback and receiver heavy, which is something that's the Cowboys are not going to target in the draft in this position. So With that said, I want the Cowboys to win. I think they are going to win. They're the most money. 81% of the money is on the Cowboys side in FanDuel Sportsbook. So I mean, but when you're talking about the game situation, Cowboys offensively just too much for the Giants. But it really boils down to is Danny Dimes he should not be out there playing. He isn't mobile enough to be effective. He's going to get blitzed. And he's not going to be able to escape. And I'm not sure why the Giants are continuing playing him, because when he obviously is hurt and immobile. So our Cowboys are going to win this game, and then I'm going to hope for the Eagles to win. And try to sneak into playoffs. Lost season, absolutely. NFC champs, NFC.
Listen. If they print T-shirts, it's a disaster.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, no one's celebrating the NFC East, who I think their combined record is like 11-28, this year or something like that against everybody else. So I mean, it's just pathetic. It's the worst division, but just from a fan's perspective, I'm going to see. Hopefully, they sneak into the playoffs, because the differential of them not making the playoffs to making the playoffs, it's not what it was a couple weeks ago with this winning streak that they're on.
Tony, let me ask you this question. So whether I've wanted them to or not, they've played better the last couple of weeks, right? They scored 30-plus points in 3 straight games. They've won them all. The point that I've always made with Prescott is not that I'm questioning the guy's talent. What I'm saying is that I don't know that with the surrounding cast that they have and what I think is a relatively talented roster, comparatively speaking, that it's worth putting that kind of money into him. No different than when I say I wouldn't pay Zeke Elliott because look where he is now without the offensive line. Clearly, the offensive line is a big reason why he puts up the numbers that he has. Not having a terrible year, he'll break 1,000 yards, but that's not what you're paying him $90 million for. So from what you've seen them do, does that make you think more of Dak Prescott or less of Dak Prescott?
Well, coming into the season, we knew that the offensive surrounding was going to be phenomenal with the receiving core and their offensive weapons. And even though they lost the offensive line and they lost Blake Jarwin, and we also knew Andy Dalton was probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL, coming into the season. So, there's no surprise that the offense is flourishing, especially against a couple bad teams in the last couple of weeks too. I mean, let's not forget that. I don't think it devalues Dak at all, because you also have to factor in his age. You have to factor in everything that he means to the Dallas organization, because Jerry Jones holds him in a very high esteem. What he means to the locker room, and the players actually do support him. So I mean, it's not like a situation. If I'm sitting here and you're like, "Hey, we got Matt Stafford ready to go for the same money,"
hold that thought.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
Breaking news from Jay Glazer. Anthony Lynn will meet with ownership on Monday, but the expectation is the team will move on.
Ow.
Yeah, we talked about this and him losing his job, and it's just he deserves to lose his job, especially when you watch any kind of game management stuff. But like I brought up when we talked about this before, you have a young quarterback who's performing at an extremely high level, locked to be offensive rookie of the year. I mean, and then you want to change him. I think that's the only questionable aspect of this move. And it'd be interesting to see who they bring him in. Maybe one guy that might have a front hold is a former Charger running back Eric Bieniemy, who's he's an extremely hot name in NFL circles now to get an opportunity to be the next head coach. It's offensive coordinator Kansas City. So Herbert in the Kansas City offense with Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, it could be a very nice offensive team. So.
Mike, we've talked about this, though. Like, one of the reasons that we like them keeping Lynn is because of the continuity with Herbert. And we've seen quarterbacks go through guys year after year, and you don't really get that, and then you don't really see your full potential. Your thoughts there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just don't think, like I said, and what I said before, I didn't think he was going to keep Herbert. He was going to keep him on the bench until Tyrod Taylor really ran himself out of town. And that whole thing happened, and he had to put him in. That's the reason why you saw Herbert play as much as he did. But listen, let's put it this way with Lynn. Even without the Herbert situation, he's got weapons there. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Bosa. He's got guys there, and they should be better than they are. And I think that's the reason that they're going, is because they see a future in Herbert, and they don't want him to, get this team going in the wrong direction when Herbert's got him going in the right direction right now. I mean, the Chargers have something bright on the horizon with Herbert, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback for years to come. They just have to start getting a little bit more around him, and I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I feel like they want to go with an offensive guy. They want to get this thing.
Yep.
They want to get this thing going. They want to score points. They're going to have to keep up with KC in this division. And Anthony Lynn's been blundering games since he's been there. So I mean, yeah, it's time to move on from him. They need to keep up with KC. If they could steal Bieniemy, like Tony said, I mean, that'd be a real big upgrade to help them compete in that division.
Shout out to Chris Berman with Eric sleeping with Bieniemy,
Love it.
Anyway, yeah, I think the Cowboys win. I don't want them to. It's just, I mean, look, they've really played well against the Giants the last couple of times they've played. I think Joe Judge has had a really good year, all things considered. I joined our friends over at the Review and Preview show. They did a Giants Cowboys preview. I said they were going to like 31-28, kind of the thing that I see. The Giants' best offensive output was against the Cowboys in Week 5. When Dak got hurt, they have not touched 34 points since. I think the Cowboys win for better.
Do you want them to win? Do you want them to win?
I don't know that I do.
So, Brian, you like the over in this game? I'm taking
I
it.
do. Yeah, the defenses both are very good. Mark Scotty, noted Eagles fan, being that they're out, wants to see Buffalo make a deep run, thinks they're the sleepers. I think they're the second best team in the conference, at the very least. Again, I just think that Kansas City is just, I mean, I don't know how they're going to lose a game in the playoffs. And it's crazy to say that because they really have not played well the last couple of weeks, but like you just don't envision it.
Yeah, they have.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Kansas City hasn't been dominant.
Say they're vulnerable. It's crazy.
It's just weird to say it. Not a lot of implication here, maybe a little bit for Tampa, but the 4-11 Falcons who stink at Tampa Bay 10-5, Bucks laying 6.5, over/unders 50. Tampa's clinched. They're going to be the 5 or the 6, most likely the 5. For Atlanta, Julio Jones is out, which means Matt Ryan's going to be terrible, and they're picking third. The intrigue here is entirely around, will Atlanta, with the third pick in the draft potentially, exactly where they took Matt Ryan, will they make a change at quarterback for a team that really isn't very young? And really, like, you have money committed to these guys, but, like, you may not be picking this high again. And if the Jets go and take a Sewell at 2 and you're at 3 and Fields is staring you in the face, that's a tough call.
I think that's the move that the Falcons would have to make. But, in regards to the game here, I mean, when you're looking at the Bucks,
I hate to do it to you, Tone.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
Of course, I can't spell. So the breaking news again from Jay Glazer is there will be no coach. There will be no change to the front office in Philadelphia. Peterson and Howie are both safe. They're both coming back. All the speculation of Howie Roseman gone ain't going to happen. Not going to be there. We'll see if they make a change at quarterback.
Well, we know so that, I mean, with Wentz already coming out with his statement, Peterson and Howie staying is pretty much, lights out. And you know how Howie's relationship with Laurie is. So, I mean, that's not surprising at all.
Mike?
No, we knew Pearson was staying. It's a little bit of a shock that Howie Roseman's staying, but it kind of isn't because you thought if one goes, both of them would go together. So they weren't going to mix and match.
I knew Mark's reaction as soon as I posted that news because he's and listen, as a fan of a rival team, I love it. I'm going to tell you something. Like I think he is so overrated when it comes to the cap. Because if you look at their cap situation next year, all they've really done is just move money into the future. Like, it doesn't go away.
You're going to have to get creative next year.
Spot next year. So, like, at some point, like, when you keep mortgaging, the bill comes due. So, all of this talk about how great Howie's with the cap. I mean, yeah, I can go into debt too. It's like welcome to America.
Well,
but
see, but guys, here's the thing that people are kind of overlooking too, is that the Eagles did bring in John Dorsey. All right. So once the Eagles brought in John Dorsey, and so now you have the pencil neck geek and Howie Roseman doing the numbers and the cap and all that nonsense, right? That we just mentioned. Now you have actually a real football mind in John Dorsey brought on as a consultant or whatever you want to call him. So once they brought in Dorsey as their consultant, you already knew that was the marriage that was going to happen right there. So, and Howie Roseman was going to stay. So Dorsey's there, Howie Roseman's there. They're going to be the football minds and sharing duties, and their commitment to Doug Peterson. That's not surprising because the quarterback obviously wants to leave, and he hasn't played well to expectations. And Peterson has won without Wentz. You can't say it the other way around.
Yeah, this isn't really surprising. I figured they'd both be back. Yeah, I mean, with like Tony said, with Dorsey coming in, he's a football guy. Howie's always been like just a money mover, like you said, Brian, moving money around, making things work, and he hasn't really. None of his picks have really panned out. A bunch of them, so I think Dorsey there is going to have a big voice in the next draft.
Mark with a great point. They always have the smartest guys in the room. They think they are so smart. And I listen, give them full credit. They won a Super Bowl. I'm taking nothing away from them. But short of that, I'm not going to call them Cam Newton here. We had one good year, but there really has been a lot of sustained success in a long time.
And I mean, I think all the Eagles fans and what their issue are with Howie Roseman, they are going to go away with Dorsey. And obviously Dorsey never, his draft record is spotty, just like every other GM who, in the history. But when you're looking at with Dorsey there, I think he's going to be the one that just control the draft. He pulled the trigger on Baker Mayfield. Nick Chubb, great pick. Denzel Ward, great pick. I mean, so he's had some success in the draft, and I think whether he's going to get the credit and Roseman, is my name because of the relationship with Laurie. Let's not overlook that.
We got away from this, Tony. I didn't interrupt your thought there on the Atlanta-Tampa game. I apologize.
Atlanta and Tampa. Oh, what I was saying is that Tampa Bay wants to win this game. It's not a throwaway game, okay? Because you said they're locked into the 5 or 6 seed. Okay, well, what's the difference between the 5 and 6? The difference between the 5 and 6 is playing the NFC East winner. Okay, that's the difference. Tampa Bay wants the 5. They want Washington. They want Dallas. They want the Giants. That's I mean, if you look at the difference in who they could play as the 6th seed and who they could play as the 5th seed, the 5th is where they want to go, and they don't care. They're going to be on the road regardless. So bring on the NFC East winner. Tampa Bay plays this game as a must-win, and I like the Bucks. I'll lay this 6.5.
Yeah, it actually came down. It was a 7. I like it came down to the 6.5. I do like the Bucks here. They, like Tony said, they really have to. This is a playoff game. Basically for them, they have to win to get that position to play the East. So, yeah, roll with the Bucks here. They do start off slow, so I mean, maybe consider an Atlanta first half bet here +4. The Bucks generally start off a little slow, so maybe just a little play right there.
Yeah,
and Mike, your team.
I was going to say that with this game, yeah, the Bucks need this game, the 5 or 6, like Tony had said. I do like the over actually a lot in this game because I know Shaq Barrett and Devin White are not playing in this game due to COVID. So that could be something that defenses go back and forth. Could be I know Julio Jones isn't playing either, but it's going to be a game where guys are throwing and the Bucks want to win this game. So I think it's going to be a shootout. I do think the Bucks win this game. And the one thing I am worried about in the NFL in this last week is COVID's blown up a lot this week, guys. I know guys are resting, but a lot of guys are getting COVID. And I just hope this doesn't carry over to the playoffs. So teams like myself with the Bucks, hopefully no guys, get this moving into the following week. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because one of the things that's going to be really interesting is seeing how the NFL does the scheduling, okay? Because from what I read yesterday, it pertained more to New Orleans because they were talking about Alvin Kamara, and but obviously it's the same situation with Devin White. if the game, whoever plays on Saturday is not going to be eligible in a playoff schedule. Whoever plays on Saturday is potentially not going to be eligible to return. But if they play on Sunday, they're going to be eligible to return. So we're going to see. I wouldn't be surprised to it's going to be surprising to see what game the NFL puts on Saturday and what game NFL puts on Sunday, because Tampa Bay and New Orleans are not going to play on the same day, most likely. Right. So it's going to see who they kind of sway with, because I'm sure that's in the thought process.
Moving into late afternoon, more of these games are going to have some meaning. First and foremost, in the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers at 12-3. They are visiting the Chicago Bears 8-7. Packers laying 4, over under 49.5. For Chicago, they will make the playoffs with a win or a Cardinals loss. For Green Bay, they clinch the 1 seed with a win or a Seattle loss. So both teams do have something to play for. So, Tone, here's the problem for the Bears, right? The problem for the Bears is Arizona's playing, we're going to talk about this, Arizona's playing a guy at quarterback who's never taken a snap in the NFL. Green Bay has a lot to play for here. This is not as if they would fall to the 2 and still get a bye. So the Bears are going to have to beat the Packers. Your confidence level in that?
Yeah, Brian, this is bad. This is not what I really was looking forward to. Let me give you a stat I saw this morning. The last 26 games, the Packers are 19-7 against the spread on the Bears. They are 16-5 against the spread in the last games in Chicago. So they absolutely own this team right now. Aaron Rodgers scares the death out of me. I have no confidence today. The Bears are secondary. They're out 2 guys in the secondary, and the Packers are they're on automatic pilot on offense. It's just like I don't have much confidence today. The Bears are gonna have to play keep away. They're gonna have to run the ball with Montgomery, and they're gonna have to somehow contain Rodgers. I know Green Bay's out their linemen, so I don't know how big of a deal that's gonna be, but I'm very worried today. And I've been in this position 2013 when Aaron Rodgers just put a dagger in us to knock us out of the playoffs. So my confidence level is not high today.
I mean, I think you'd rather play the Chiefs with Mahomes than a guy like Aaron Rodgers with a chance to end your season.
Yeah, I mean, he does anything he can to stick it to the Bears, and he's been doing it his whole career. And there's nothing he would rather do today than just knock them out by throwing 4 touchdowns, because I just see it coming.
Yeah, same way. I look Green Bay to roll in this game. The Rodgers, the bear killer, and here he goes into Chicago looking to knock another team out of the playoffs. I like Green Bay with the 4.
Quick.
Can I ever bet on Mr. Trubisky? But here's the thing. Mr. Trubisky has been playing phenomenal football, right? I mean, for the most part, I'm going Bears. I'm going upset. Give me the Bears plus the 4. Bear right, down. Tom. Bear down, baby.
Wait. So are you calling the Bears to cover or to win?
Bears are going to win.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. Right, bang. Look at that coming at you. Wow.
All right. Okay. Really, this is one of 2 games with no meaning, so we'll gloss over it quickly. 7-8 Raiders, 5-10 Broncos. Raiders laying less than a field goal, over on 50.5. Denver's picking 8th. Vegas is picking 14th. Most likely to make a quarterback change in the next season, Denver or Vegas?
Denver.
Vegas.
Just
because John Gruden just for some reason hates Derek Carr.
Yep,
he just hates him.
Yep.
I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's personality, but I mean, maybe it's, Derek Carr does nothing but go out there and throw seeds and to Darren Waller and and I think Drew Lock they're still
and Aguilar.
Yeah.
I just think John Elway's going to run. I just think John Elway is going to run out of patience. He's doesn't seem like he has any patience with his quarterbacks. So he has a little bit of
Here's a little bit of Jordan syndrome and Magic Johnson and these guys that it's when you're such a phenomenal, apex of your sport and your position. It's hard to properly value other quarterbacks and players.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have one win this year. It came week 1 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And today it comes full circle. They've lost 14 games straight since that game. They currently hold the number 1 pick in the draft, and they're going to hold it at the end of today because they are a 14-point underdog against the Indianapolis Colts, 10-5. Over under 49.5. Indianapolis will win the South with a win and a Tennessee loss. They will make the playoffs with a win and losses by either Baltimore, Cleveland, or Miami. So this is precarious, right? Because we're going to talk about Tennessee. They're in Houston. Don't think they lose. Don't think Baltimore loses. Don't think Cleveland loses. It's going to come down to Miami. So Colts fans are Bills fans in a big way today. Jacksonville will allegedly fire Doug Marrone. We reported it last year and got it wrong. So this year we hope that we're right about it. Mike, if you're the Colts here, I mean, you really got to hope that somebody helps you out.
You do, but you also got to do what you got to do today. And you put the hammer down on Jacksonville today. Jacksonville has been playing tough. They play hard some games, but you know what? You're at home. You're the Colts. You got to put the hammer down today. That defense should really put them in check today. No James Robinson for them today. I don't think DJ Shark is playing today either. You're the Colts. You got to put this game away. I'll take the Colts with the 14. They drop the hammer today. They get it done and just let the chips fall where they may.
So let me break down this scenario here, right? So they have to win the South with a Tennessee loss, which probably isn't going to happen. They make the playoffs with a win and a Baltimore. All 3 teams are they
or either just one of them.
Just one of them has to lose.
They need to get ahead of one team, and they lose, they can jump them.
Okay, so Miami, as you said, is the key. Miami game's at 1:00. Baltimore games at 4. I mean, this Jacksonville game's at 4:25. Mm-hmm. Colts might be going in playing dead, right?
No, because they could win the South. If they win and Tennessee loses, they also play at 4.
And then that's their only hope is Houston. This is looking like a very bad scenario. If Miami wins, it's going to be very difficult for the Indianapolis Colts to get in. With that said, you have to assume the Colts are going all out. Johnny Taylor continues his tear of the second half of the season. Colts win, Colts cover, hit Johnny Taylor's props on the over.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the points today. I would go to Jacksonville plus 14. They've been not bad against the spread today. I can't see the Colts not winning, but I'll take the points with the plus 14 today.
Listen, Ant, they've gotten absolutely whitewashed in the last 3 games. They were playing team stuff, but the last 3 games it was 31-10, 40-14, and 41-17 to your beloved Chicago Bears. So if you're taking the 14, good luck. Hit me up. You need a loan.
They took that lead in that Chicago game too. Remember that, and they were playing well. They were up 10-0. Then they got the bomb dropped on them, and they got smoked. So,
does your bookie give you bonus points for that? No, all about the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. No meaning here other than this looks like it might be Anthony Lynn's swan song, my favorite word of the day. 6-9 Chargers at the 14-1 Chiefs, who are resting everybody, which is the only reason the Chargers are a 4.5-point favorite today. KC's locked into the 1 seed. They get a week off next week, taking one off this week as well. Chargers picking 10th. If you're the Chargers, right? So you're going to get probably a head coaching change, but you got your quarterback, and that's probably the most important thing. The defense had some injuries. They should be coming back. They should be okay. Pretty good wide receiver. I like Hunter Henry more than most. Like, what are you looking for if you're the Chargers going into the draft? Like, are you looking for an impact wide receiver in a receiver-heavy draft? Are you looking for offensive line? Like, what's just kind of your read here? Because I think they're a better team than their record indicates, and they've actually a better record than I thought they would have earlier in the year.
And let's also forget that Derwin James is hurt, and that missed all season.
A lot of favorite, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, no, they're not looking for receiver help. They're not looking for any offensive help. I mean, you're talking about a team that needs secondary help against the Kansas City Chiefs team, against a team that is going to throw the ball a lot. I mean, so when that's going to be said, they'll probably target a cornerback with the 10th pick. Chad Henne is the absolute man. One of my favorite players. Hung out with him in LA at his rookie party, which was a fun time. Good dude. He's going to throw this ball, and I'll never bet against him. I'm taking Kansas City +4.5.
Wow.
It's actually the line. That line's actually up to 6.5. By the way,
Has it moved up?
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
give me Anthony Lynn led team. You're crazy. I'll take 6.5 against any Anthony Lynn led team.
Go ahead, Ed. I'm still in shock. Go ahead. Oh wait.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do have a ton of talent. They've had talent on that team for years. It just seems like they're so undisciplined when the game comes down to the end, decision making. I mean, if they could really find a coach that could just instill some discipline in this team and find ways to win. The quarterback's there. Defensive backfield, they need help. Defensive line, they need more help just because who's playing in your division. You got to match up with KC. So you got to find guys on the other side of the ball that's going to match up with that offense. So that would be my main priority.
I mean, yeah, I know what you guys are saying with Kansas City, and Chad Henne might be a great guy. But with Kansas City benching as many guys as they are, this is going to be not a good game, I don't think. I'll take the Chargers in this game just because I think they're going to play for Anthony Lynn. I think he's a bum. I think he should be out, but I just think they maybe like him as a coach because they've been under him for a couple of years. I think maybe they play for him. They might not win the game, but they'll definitely cover. So give me the Chargers in the 6.5.
Just a weird game. I mean, literally they have nothing to play for.
Right.
Nothing to play for.
Nothing.
So.
And on that, Brian won't make a pick. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Boy,
Arizona 8-7, Rams 9-6, Cardinals -2.5. Over under is 41. Arizona will make the playoffs with a win. The Rams make the playoffs with a win or a loss by your Chicago Bears. For the Rams, Jared Goff is out. Josh Wolford from Wake Forest, undrafted. He is the passing touchdowns career leader in the AAF. Hasn't thrown an NFL pass for today, but I guess he's going to have to. This is not a real good spot here for the Rams because while I do think the Packers win later, let's assume that Quigg's right and the Bears find a way to get a win. That injury to Jared Goff might cost the Rams a playoff spot because
I'd let him play with the broken finger right now.
You're going to have to win this game defensively against Kyler Murray. Don't really see it.
Let him throw with the other hand. Put Goff in there. Let him throw with the other hand.
Well, I think Cam Akers is back, and I believe he's supposed to play today. If we get there's no official confirmation now. Darrell Henderson, is one of those things where. He's a suitable running back too, and the Rams are going to have to run heavy. My little Cooper Kupp is out today as well. Josh Reynolds. I mean, listen, Arizona and Kyler Murray have been in a straight regression. I mean, Kyler Murray has stats be damned. He hasn't looked great. Jalen Ramsey gives Hopkins fits. I mean, we've seen it. But with that being said, can you ever take why is this line only 2.5? Okay,
exactly.
High hell.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Listen, I know a lot about college football. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks play that I wish I never saw play again. John Wolford is not somebody that I've had in-depth knowledge of. Remember seeing play. You have to take Kyler Murray. You have to take the Cardinals. If the Cardinals lose this game, I think it's a bigger tell on the future of the Cardinals finishing the season at 8-8 than it is anything else. Because if they finish this year 8-8 when they had a lot of promise and hopes come in the beginning of the season, these last few weeks have been absolutely dreadful for them.
Any good player props, Tony, in this game?
It's tough. I haven't looked. I'd probably look at Kyler Murray's rushing. because Aaron Donald is going to be running in there, giving him fits, and he's going to have to escape the pocket. But other than that, I'm not going to touch any of DeAndre Hopkins against Ramsey. I haven't looked at the numbers yet for the 4:00 games yet. Christian Kirk might be a solid play without without Larry Fitzgerald and maybe the tight end Dan Arnold, who seems to be a favorite of Kyler Murray, maybe as a first touchdown prop.
I'm rooting for the Rams, but I'm rolling with the Rams today. I love the matchup, their defense against Arizona's offense, and I think they could really muck this game up. And this line, 2.5, that's it. It's like, and Murray's banged up, so I really like the Rams defensively against the offense and their special teams. So I'm rooting for the Rams, and I'm rolling with the Rams here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take one out of Brian's repertoire here and say
it's a trap.
It's a trap. It's definitely a trap. This game, I'm taking the Rams as well with Anthony. I just think Kyler Murray's production in the last couple weeks has slowed down a little bit, and the Rams are, their defensive line is killer. I mean, Donald's gonna be running around all day, slowing Murray down. I like the Rams today. Give me the 2.5, and I'll take the Rams.
11-4 Seattle at the 6-9 Niners. Seahawks laying 7 here, over under 46. For Seattle, they will clinch the 1 seed with a win and a Green Bay loss and a Saints loss. Asking a lot there. For San Francisco, they hold the 11th pick in the draft. Real quick here, I think we're all probably going to think Seattle's going to win this game, but who is the starting quarterback next year for the Niners currently on the roster?
The Jimmy G experiment hasn't really had the best results. I mean, the only thing he's really accomplished there is banging a porn star. So,
I mean, hey, it's worked out. I mean,
good for him. I wish I was in that situation.
There you go.
So, on your anniversary,
on my anniversary too. By the way,
on your anniversary, good job there.
He doesn't watch the show, so
I'm sure for enough cash we can make that happen. But
absolutely, listen. Shanahan, I mean, a reunion with Matt Ryan with Shanahan on that team might be a little interesting. But do you want to go into, get that 30-plus-year-old quarterback for somebody, Garoppolo? I'm going to say that they do bring in competition for Garoppolo, but he stays on the roster.
Anybody thinking Seattle won't win this game?
No, they have to.
I think it's going to be a
they
close game.
shoot a lot against that Rams team, that's for sure. In a big win.
A division game. Niners play these guys close. They play hard. Shanahan's a good coach. +7. Take it.
Interdivisional home dog. Give me the Niners again. So I will take the Niners as well.
I'm taking Seattle to win the game, but you guys, are you taking them to? You're just taking them to win, but not cover, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah,
I got the point.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Saints at 11-4, Panthers 5-10, Saints laying 6 here. For the Saints, Kamara is out due to COVID, and so is their entire running back room. That's going to be interesting. For the Saints, they get a first-round bye with a win and a Green Bay loss and a Seattle win. Carolina's holding 7th pick here. I'm not going to go. This is going to be too difficult. Saints win the game, right? But if you're Carolina, you're picking 7th. Similar question I've asked about a couple teams. Are they in the quarterback market?
No,
The draft.
not at. I don't believe it's 7. I think Matt Rule and Teddy Bridgewater have what they like. If somebody falls and knocks their socks off, for some reason, if Justin Fields falls, maybe they that's something that they look at. But I don't think the quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, I don't think they did enough for Carolina to make that investment right now.
Yeah, I love Carolina today.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I like Carolina with the 6. I think they're going to hang with the Saints. That's really all much I got on this game.
I like Carolina as well. Same thing, interdivisional home dog, and not for anything. I think in the draft, Carolina is going to look to do an offensive line maybe upgrade or go D line. with this draft. But yeah, Carolina's showing that they're moving the needle for Matt Rule. We just talk about how good of a coach he is, and they're going to play. And the Saints really, they're going to be resting guys. So yeah, I like the Carolina Panthers too. Give me the 6.
Backdoor cover.
I'll take it.
Tennessee needs a win. Tennessee's 10-5, Texans 4-11. Titans laying 7 here. They will win the South with a win or an Indianapolis loss. Playoffs with Baltimore loss or a Miami loss. Houston's pick is owned by Miami, so they don't even get the 4th overall pick.
Deshaun Watson is going to play the full game, which makes it a little bit interesting. I mean, he's going for some personal goals and milestones, records, or whatever you want to call them for the season. Tennessee, though, Derrick Henry needs 2,000 yards or whatever, has a chance to hit 2,000 yards for the big game. I pounded over 118 yards last night. I don't know what that number's up to by game time, but I'm definitely on Henry.
And a half.
What is it?
I was going to say 126 and a half.
Is it up that high?
Yeah.
I think I put it on DraftKings, so I'm not. Yeah, so there you go. So you already jumped up by 3 a.m. last night. So when you're looking at this game, it's going to be a lot of Derrick Henry. It's going to be a lot of play action to abuse that secondary. Tennessee wins. Tennessee covers.
Yeah, high scoring game. Tennessee's defense is not good. Obviously, Houston's defense isn't good. I like the Henry props. I like A.J. Brown to score. And I like Deshaun Watson over 295 yards passing. I think it's always on him every week. So it's just going to be – and last time they played, 42-36, I believe it was. It was a shootout that went to overtime. Kind of expect the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of like a shootout as well. I'll take the over in this 56. I think it's going to be back and forth. You're going to see a lot of Henry, but you're also going to see a lot of Houston trying to get back into this. That's why I like Anthony's pick with the over on Watson. Yeah, I'll take the over 56 in this game.
Miami's really rooting hard for a Tennessee win today. Get that pick going. They are very fired up about that. Last but not least, the final game of the 2020 NFL season in the regular season, the Washington football team 6-9 at the Eagles 4-10-1. Washington -3.5 over under 44. They will win the division with a win regardless what happens between the Giants and Cowboys. Eagles currently hold the 5th pick in the draft, which I'm assuming they're going to want to hold. They are resting key starters. Not including Carson Wentz, who's inactive. They apparently are keeping both their coach and GM, to the chagrin of some, to the happiness of me, because I think they're both terrible. I don't see any way that Washington doesn't win this game, simply because I don't think the Eagles care. They're resting people.
Can we get the Eagles chant? Never mind. Listen, I'm big fan of the Eagles. Alex, here's the thing, too. Alex Smith is supposed to play. He's supposed to start. It's been I hate this Washington team. I hate it that they're called the football team. I think it's nonsense. I hate their owner. Cowboys' biggest rivalry for the last 40 years that I've been alive. So when you look at it like that point, there's everything I dislike about them. But when you have a coach like Ron Rivera who overcomes cancer, you have a quarterback in Alex Smith that overcomes almost losing a leg, including his life. It's hard not to root for them, and expect, for the storybook. Chase Young has been phenomenal. That defensive line has been phenomenal. Pound all Washington props, Terry McLaurin, Jared McKissick. I'd jump on them guys. But here's the thing that I think you need to realize. Eagles aren't playing for much. Wentz isn't there. Hurts is going to play. He's going to try to ball out. You also have the factor that Alex Smith is not healthy. Taylor Henke took most of the first team reps up until Friday. So that's a telling sign that I wouldn't be too surprised if Smith leaves this game early. And it kind of makes it a little bit interesting. I'll take Washington. Eagles defense is pretty bad, especially the secondary. As long as Smith's in there, they should win. Washington wins an ugly game to end a late night of, I'd say, 24-20.
Yeah, the Eagles are sitting a lot of guys. If the Eagles were playing some of their players, I'd actually roll with the Eagles because I'm just not impressed with this Washington, this team. But yeah, it's hard to see Washington losing this game. Eagles are just packing it in right now, rightly so.
Yeah, I'll take the Washington football team as well. Drain Hook. What are the Eagles playing for right now? They both. Peterson and Roseman both have their jobs. I'll take Washington.
Shouldn't, but they do. So that wraps up Week 17. It's a big week on the Sports Box, especially for you hockey fans. Tomorrow night we have Flyers PA announcer Lou Nolan on the show at 7 o'clock. On Wednesday, Baseline Jumper Boys are back with a lot of NBA coverage, 7 p.m. Thursday night is our NHL season preview, 8 p.m. Join the boys for that. Sweet Tea will be back on Friday. Best of luck to all of your wagering today. I'd like to hope you win lots of currency in whichever you're betting. On behalf of the boys, thanks for watching us today. Thanks to Crowd Play, and we will catch you for the playoffs. Late play. Take the live bet Buffalo plus 3.5. Late play.
Bear down, boys.
I hate the Cowboys.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at Crowd Play. Download the free Crowd Play app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.